What is happening, everybody on YouTube? Steve here with Raiken Profit over at RaikenProfit.com. Welcome to another live show, and we have an awesome show tonight with a guest you might not have seen before, but definitely a guest who has a ton of knowledge and is going to add a lot of value and help you out tremendously tonight. So I want to welcome Ted Paulk to the house. What's going on, man? How are you?
Having a great day. What about you?
Hey man, everything's going really, really well. And I'm telling you, I'm super pumped up to talk about online arbitrage tonight because, we were talking before and you were asking me, what experience I have. And I said, I'm mostly into the thrift stores, garage sales. I've gone to flea markets before, pawn shops. I want to get into wholesale, but I don't really have much experience with online arbitrage. And I think that's perfect because not only am I going to be able to ask you really good questions, but also I know my audience well, and a lot of them, they do a little online arbitrage, but they don't do a ton of it. And I think that might be just because of lack of education. And I know that's the case for me. I just never really studied it. So we've got somebody on who is an expert with online arbitrage. And also you are the founder of, or one of the founders of OAXRAY?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Started OAXRAY in 2015.
2015. Wow. Okay, cool, man. So if you guys have ever used the software OAXRAY, you're the one who actually, you said you came up with the idea, or your partner, or?
I came up with the idea. I was actually programming programs for myself for personal use, and I showed a few of my friends and they said they had to have it.
Cool, man. So that's pretty awesome right there. That's I've been messing with that software for a while, and it's cool to be able to talk to the guy who actually, created it and he came up with the idea. So anyways, guys, welcome. This video is going to be about how to make money on Amazon FBA with online arbitrage. I'm looking in the comments right now. We got Bobby Moons in the house. We've got Brian Dormio. What's going on? Saying hit that like button. I agree with Brian. If you guys are excited for this show, you got to hit the like button. Show some love. Susie D saying, hey guys, I jumped in and I'm keeping my head above water. So far, I'm doing FBA. Well, as long as your head's above water, that's what's important. South Florida Seller says, hey Ted, love your videos. Am ordering OAXRAY. So very cool right there. Mr. Sadie, hello, Bubba. You love to call me Bubba, don't you, Mr. Sadie? K-Bomb123, that's terrific. I was just about to sit down and watch a bunch of OAXRAY videos. So cool. So everyone's excited for the show. There's a lot of likes coming in. There's about 120 people watching right now. And I did want to mention, Ted, actually, I'll have you mention it, Ted. You said you were going to be giving something away for free today, and we didn't even plan this. You just came out of the woodworks with this, man, and smacked me over the head with it, which that actually might hurt me based on what you're giving away because it's pretty big.
So what we have is a book here. It's over 400 pages. It is the authoritative guide on online arbitrage, actually written by Chris Green. You might be able to see it right there. It's called Online Arbitrage, full of great information. And if you already have the book on Amazon.com, it goes for about 75 bucks. So I know we're in a resell community. So once you read it and you get your value, you can also do that.
Cool. So we're actually going to be giving that away at the end of the show. We're going to reward the people who stick around and learn. This video is going to be 100% education, adding value, answering questions, and that's pretty much it, raw and uncut. So stick around. I'm going to ask you guys a really, really easy question at the end of the show, and I'm going to pick somebody randomly. So let's dive into it, Ted, man. You ready to rock and roll, man?
Yes, sir.
142 people watching live. We are ready to go. So tell everybody a little bit about, who you are, what's your story, and how did you get into this crazy reseller game?
So in 2008, I heard about this crazy program called Fulfillment by Amazon. I tried to sell online before, but it was just way too much work. I don't know how much merchant fulfilled shipping you've done, but whenever you have 20 or 30 orders coming in every single day, that trip to the post office is just horrible. So once I found out about this, I went around thrifting. I found books, everything I could find to resell on Amazon. And probably in 2011, I learned about that you can stay at home and source. And this was called online arbitrage. You buy your items online, you resell it on a different marketplace. So once I found that, I started hiring virtual assistants. I started automating things by hiring programmers. And once I figured out that process, I was able to automate a good amount of my business. And in 2015, I had so many leads that I actually started showing some of my friends what I was using in the software. And that's how OAXRAY got started. The people were asking me how I find so many leads, and I created the program a little bit more user-friendly, and here we are today.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So how long, when you came up with the idea, and we're not going to be talking too much about OAXRAY today. In another video, we're going to be doing probably at least 2 more videos together over the next month, and we'll talk about that another time. But like, when you thought of the idea OAXRAY, like, and then maybe, I don't know, you probably started talking to some developers or web people, like how long until that actually became a reality? I'm just curious out of my own interest.
So there were many iterations. It actually took at least 2 or 3 years because,
Wow.
you know, you think of a small idea and then you build on that idea, and eventually, you know, you create OAXRAY, but it takes a few years to even come up with the entire concept, make it usable, and, you know, so many problems you run into whenever you're programming. You have to get over those hurdles, and that's how OAXRAY kind of is where it is.
So I've been building out some Shopify stores and some WordPress websites, and there's a lot of bugs, there's a lot of issues, and that's just like simple, very, very simple. I couldn't imagine having my own software and all the servers. It's got to be crazy right there. But cool, man. So let's talk about online arbitrage a little bit. What exactly is online arbitrage? Because I know there's some beginners. We were talking about this before the show. There's people who watch my videos and they've never resold anything. They're just kind of like watching because they're like, who is this crazy guy reselling stuff from thrift stores to pawn shops or whatever? But like, what is online arbitrage? Because that's going to be the foundation of everything that we talk about today.
Great. So whenever I got started, I was going around store to store finding items, which is retail arbitrage. And eventually I cleared out the shelves of all my local stores. And I went online and I looked and I saw the same item that I was buying in store and I was driving around for $5. It was selling for maybe 15 in this example. And I noticed it was available online and I could buy multiple quantities of the item. So I bought the item on a lower price marketplace. I believe my first website that I sourced from online was Toys R Us, and I found that it was selling for 3 times more on Amazon. So online arbitrage is the use of the 2 different marketplace price points and making money on the second marketplace, which is Amazon in this case.
Cool. That's simple enough. That's like, I guess the most purest and rawest definition of working from home, because you could literally, and again, I don't have a ton of experience, so I'm just talking from what I've seen others do and what you're saying, but this stuff works. I know people who do this and I've seen it happen firsthand, but I've never really gotten into it. I don't know why, but like, it's the rawest definition of being able to work from home, because you could literally, if you find the right websites, and that's what we're going to get into next, because that's what always kind of like screwed me up. I never knew where to go, but like, you could just order from your house and have it shipped right to your house, and then you send it off to the fulfillment centers.
Definitely. You can do that, or you can add in a prep center if that makes more sense for you. So I like the hunt. I like to do RA, but I have 2 kids at home and I did not want to put them in daycare. So I said, you know what, at nights and on the weekends, whenever I have some free time, I can do this online arbitrage thing. I can also have virtual assistants help me out with it. And that is why I do it. I know that some people love that in-store hunt, and I still like it.
I hear that a lot.
Exactly. I love it also. But sometimes you just have your situation that kind of keeps you at home, and that is the best option for you. There's a lot of different options on Amazon. And if you're a homebody and you do not want to go out, this might be an excellent source for you.
It's something to kind of throw in your arsenal, because, you know, I know a lot of the people who watch this channel, myself included, like I love going to the thrift store, like garage sales. Like, it's just so much fun, right? It's just like, it's like being a kid again, right? It's like you're in a candy store. You don't know what you're going to find. You don't know what you're going to take home. But there's times, right? And I've been kind of going through this phase, Ted, where like, I'm kind of getting sick and tired, like to an extent, of like going thrifting all the time, going to garage sales, even though I don't have them now because I'm in Connecticut and there was like 3 feet of snow. But like, I go through phases, and I think a lot of the people watching too probably go through this as well, where they get sick and tired of always having to go out and hunt and find the next thing. And I want to say, like, competition as well. Like, sometimes the competition is really, really fierce, especially with retail arbitrage if you're going to like Target and Walmart. So I I think that's really, really cool. Let's talk about websites, right? Like, where do you go to be able to source products online? Is there like a database out there? Like, do you have a huge list, or like, is there, what am I missing? Because like, I guess, what's your process for when you want to source online? Where do you go? Where do people start?
So I like to start in the stores that are local to me that may not be in every geographic area. Often this is a good strategy. For instance, we have a store local to us called Roses. I don't know if that's everywhere.
I've
Some of you
never
guys
heard of
might
it.
have never heard of it. Great. So they might have a website, and I know that everybody is not going to be able to find the same items on the website. It's kind of a local store. People probably haven't heard of it. So that is where I like to start. And I also like to start at the big chains also, your Toys R Us, your Walmarts. And I like those because you kind of get to learn their shipping and how they ship things, how long it takes and things like that. Because a store like Toys R Us in particular, if you order items over a certain size, they'll ship it directly in the box that it comes in. And then, you know, it gets all scuffed up and you kind of learn those things. But having a local store where you can say, you know, you sent it, it wasn't in the correct condition, and you can just easily get those items back is just another benefit of finding a local place to you.
So let's just say we're going to start with Roses, right? Maybe where do you live in the United States?
I live in
If you
Virginia
don't.
Beach.
Okay, cool. So let's just say someone lives in that area. They have a Roses. They visit the website, right? Is that where you're going to go directly to the website?
So some places will have direct websites that will only show you what's in their local store. Some stores will have websites online and they will show you everything that's available, and it will all be available to ship. I like the best the ones that only have local store availability, because you know that only people who are located near it can actually find those products. And it's just a kind of way to keep yourself gated from everyone.
Oh,
And it's a way to keep yourself off of BOLO lists and things like that. I don't know if you know what those are, but
yeah, of
sometimes,
course. Yeah.
exactly. So sometimes people sell lists with things, and if it's not available across the US, it's not going to make it on the list in general. So it's a way to kind of insulate yourself from some of those things.
Wow. So I didn't know that. So certain stores only will offer in-store pickup
Yes. So,
versus,
something like a Myers would do that, where you have to pick it up from the store. They
mm,
will show you the inventory online, but you can only pick it up from the store, or at least that was the policy, at least as a few days ago. So
Hoovy the Real says roses are red, violets are blue. Steve Raiken sells clothing, and so do you. Wow. We got some poets in the house right now. So that's a really good tip right there. So what advice would you have for somebody who's brand new and, they want to start sourcing online? Would you say that, get out a pen and pad and start writing down would you start with the stores that you feel are just local to you and just start writing down a list and then diving through that way?
I would definitely start with the local stores and maybe add in a few chains that are near you. They generally have the biggest inventory, but at the beginning, you want to buy very shallow because you don't have the experience in buying items. And I might purchase 100 of an item because I'm fairly experienced and I know what's, kind of the market, how it's going to go up or down. But I would suggest anyone just starting, buy a few of each quantity and kind of learn those markets and learn how the prices shift and things like that.
Yeah, there's a saying that goes around when you're sourcing online arbitrage and retail arbitrage, and that's going wide or going deep. Do you mind explaining that? Because I know you mentioned the word shallow, which is kind of the same thing. But what is that, going wide versus going deep, and who would you recommend goes with what if you're new?
Okay, so if you're new, I would almost always suggest you go wide on any purchase, especially if it's available across the United States, because you never know what's going to happen with the price of the item. So we go wide, meaning instead of buying 100 units of one ASIN, maybe we have 10 or 15 different ASINs and we spread out the risk amongst all those items. And then as you get more of an inventory, then you start to say, okay, there's a pattern going on here. And these items that I bought always go up in value. These items over here always go down in value, or sometimes go down in value. So I'm going to start buying more of this brand and less of this brand. And then you get to kind of figure those things out. And I just think it's a better to go wide and minimize
I
those
agree.
price fluctuations.
There's a couple people, I definitely agree with that, Ted. There's a couple people saying, you know, online arbitrage is intimidating. Online arbitrage is intimidating, lots of money to put out. Just like you said, I think it's less intimidating if you go wide, right? Because you're minimizing your risk. But what do you have to say about that? Because, you know, that's one thing that's always kind of scared me is, you know, when you're doing retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, it's a completely different game than, you know, thrifting and hitting garage sales, because, you know, at those locations, you're paying $1, $2, turning it into 10, 20. Whereas your margins, you know, instead of your margins being 300%, your margins could be 15, 20, 30, I don't know, maybe 50%. So how does somebody change up their mindset? Like what kind of mindset do you have to have going into online arbitrage, knowing that the margins are typically going to be smaller? And correct me if I'm wrong, if they're not always that small.
They're definitely in general going to be smaller than they are on thrifting or books or anything like that. I would recommend if you're already into your books, you're already into your thrifting, do your thrifting until you have more money than you have time. Because doing online arbitrage, doing retail arbitrage generally costs more capital, but you're able to find more ROI over time in the same amount of time. So if you're thrifting, yes, you have a 300% margin, but it's going to take you way more time. If you're doing online arbitrage, once you have extra capital built up, then you're actually able to afford those thinner margins. I started with very little cash, and I did mostly the thrifting. I did most of the books because that's what I had to do. If you have $200, I would not recommend doing online arbitrage. I would say start off, build your base, learn what the learn about the thrifting, get your margins as high as possible, and then as you start to gain your capital, that's whenever you start to make that shift. And you don't have to make it all at once. You can start off doing books, and then you say, okay, I have an extra $500. Let me see what happens on the retail arbitrage or the online arbitrage front, and you just kind of learn as your capital grows.
Cool. I like that a lot. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see new sellers making, right? Like if I was to dive in over the next 30 to 60 days doing online arbitrage, I'm sure I'd make a handful of mistakes. What have you seen from, you know, mentoring others and helping, coaching, and just guiding, you know, people in the past with online arbitrage? What have you seen as like some of the biggest mistakes that people make? Like what are a couple gold nuggets for anyone right now who's getting pumped up, they're getting excited, but these mistakes could kill you, right? Because there's always a couple out there, right? There's always a couple, like for example, selling like faked items, right, on Amazon. That's a killer. Is there anything that stands out to you?
So I would definitely make sure you're approved in anything before you get it, and know the policy of whatever store that you're buying from. So, but for anything, always double check that you're not restricted on anything that you're selling. I remember one of my brand new mistakes, whenever I started, there was some clearance items. The margin was awesome. They were only costing a few dollars each. So I went in and I spent a good 25% of my budget for the week, or probably for the whole month. I wasn't spending a lot back then. And I bought this item and it is restricted. And then I couldn't sell the item. So I had all this money tied up in items I couldn't sell. To be honest, I don't even remember what happened to that. I think I blocked it out because it was, you know, it was just a bad purchase that I made. But I learned, in every single time from that point, this was at least 4 years ago, I still check every single thing. And also, I should have never bought that deep. I was just starting. I shouldn't have bought a few hundred units of one thing. I should have gone wide, because it would have been a $30 or $50 mistake versus hundreds of dollars mistake.
What do you have to say about, like, you know, going deep on an item in today's world on Amazon 2017, where it seems like every other day new things are being restricted, and, you know, I'm approved, but you're restricted, and then I'm approved, and then I'm restricted, and it just seems kind of crazy lately on Amazon. You know, how do people protect themselves about that, you know, with that when you're doing online arbitrage? Because typically you're picking up a good amount of items, and things are always getting restricted all the time. I feel like, I don't know if things have been slowing down a little bit, what you've been seeing, Ted, but how do sellers protect themselves against that?
So Amazon, it is Amazon's sandbox. They can restrict whoever they want to, and they have been proving that by just randomly restricting things. I have no idea what their logic is behind some of these things, but it's happening. So that's what we're going to have to deal with. So in today's market, I definitely would not go heavy into one single brand. Not only do you need to worry about the items that you purchase in your quantity, but now you also need to worry about, okay, am I only buying, let's say Disney items? Because if I have all of my stock in one store, all Disney items, then, if Disney gets restricted, then I don't have any inventory. So not only do we have to look at the items that we're selling, but now we have to look at the brands that we're selling. So it is much better for you to actually use multiple sources. If you're only sourcing at the Disney store, for instance, then everything is tied into that one brand. So you're going to want to go to multiple places to purchase if the brands are the same.
Why do you think all these brands are restricting sellers? Do you think it's Amazon doing it because they're trying to, have that exclusive control over those wholesale accounts? Or do you feel that the bottom line to these brands are being affected, or a combination? What are your thoughts, man? I'm curious.
So Amazon is just so big, and at the moment, there's some lawsuits and things going on Amazon, and people are saying, hey, we're losing money because certain sellers are coming in here and they're selling counterfeit goods. And I think Amazon was kind of caught off guard, and they were like, how do we stop this immediately? And I think they were kind of heavy-handed whenever they just started restricting people who may have been selling a brand and never had a problem for a year. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I don't think they want to take all of the Nike or whatever it is brand. I just think they want to protect themselves. So over time, I think that more people will have access to it as they kind of get this process started. But they want to show any brand that might be being counterfeited at the moment, they want to show you that they are doing something about it. And the easiest way to show them is say, look, no one can sell on this listing unless they show proof. And that is what they've been doing with certain brands.
That's why I think it's smart, especially after talking to the wholesale guys over at the Wholesale Formula. What they've been doing, and they're approved in a ton of things, is because they're landing these wholesale contracts and they've got the invoice, right? And when you have that invoice, you're approved, right? So what are your thoughts on people mixing wholesale with online arbitrage?
So I actually think it's a great opportunity, because what it does is it's actually limits the amount of people who can actually sell into a category. So if you look at a brand, maybe 6 months ago, they had 20 or 30 sellers on a listing. Now you're looking at that same brand, there's 2 sellers on the listing.
Wow.
If you're able to get that wholesale account and then you're able to sell anything, now you're the person who's in the driver's seat, and you control the prices more, and you control and you control more of the buy box than you did before. So it's actually an excellent opportunity, and anybody who's able to adapt is really going to make a lot of money in this new environment.
One thing I've realized since quitting my jobs, I used to work at the Cracker Barrel, gas stations. Speaking of Toys R Us, man, I used to be in the back of Toys R Us with, I think we used to call it a Sapphire, and it was this little electronic item. I'd go around scanning things. I had no clue what I was doing, man. I was like 17. I'm just scanning things, just looking like I'm busy. I had no clue. I screwed up the inventory. But one thing I realized from going from like being an employee to being an employer and having people work for me and running my own business is times change. Like there's one guarantee when you're running a business is the market's going to change. Platforms are going to change. The rules are going to change, especially when you're selling on like third-party platforms like Amazon. Like if you think that Amazon's going to be the same next year, you're 100%. Even next month, like these platforms are always changing, and the winners are the ones who are willing to adapt. Bottom line, right? Like the rules are always going to change. Like things are always going to kind of feel like they're screwing up and like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. But there's always an opportunity, right?
Definitely. There's always an opportunity. And I've been on Amazon since 2008. Whenever you look at the past 9 years, every single year, at least one major policy change has come. In 2015, I believe, or 2015 or 14, they stopped drop shipping. Before that, it was okay to drop ship. Then last year, they rolled out some policies regarding private label. And I'm sure next year they're going to roll out even more changes. So you just have to adapt. The people who adapt the fastest are the ones who are going to make the most amount of money. This year, or last year they also did some box level content. So if
Gotta
you were
love
able
that.
to, exactly, it made things a little bit more difficult. But if you were able to adapt to that while people were complaining about it and they weren't packing shipments, then you can really get a jump on a lot of the market by just adapting faster.
Self-for seller is stating that they really want to get ungated in a bunch of categories, but find it overwhelming. And before that, they had asked Ted, can you give us some ideas about how and where to get invoices? So
Okay.
I guess they're asking how to get the invoices to get approved.
I would only get the invoices from a company that's able to sell the item. So look for wholesalers in whatever account or whatever the area is. So if you're in health and beauty and there's a local health and beauty place near you, you might be able to get kind of a local contract, something small. And from what I hear, it's 3 invoices that you need, and there's a few requirements. So go over the requirements before you purchase anything, because I've seen on the forums and such, someone will make one huge order and everything will be on one invoice and they won't accept it. So you might have to break up your orders, and then they might say they have to be a specific amount each. So you want to make sure that you understand the rules, and each category is going to be a little different. Some categories will have automatic approval, so you just apply for it and boom, you get it. Other categories are going to require a website, or there's just a whole bunch of different requirements. So just look at those in each category.
So Ted, I got a question for you that I've always been curious about when it comes to online arbitrage. How in the world does somebody gain a competitive advantage over the next guy or the next gal when sourcing online? And I know we mentioned, one of the strategies that you had recommended was, going to the local stores that only allow you to pick up. That's a competitive advantage right there. But what other things can people do? Like how are you going to beat the next guy out, Ted, who has the same abilities? Maybe you're sourcing from like Toys R Us or Walmart or one of these national brands or whatnot, and anybody has access to it. How do you get that competitive advantage? Is there anything specific that you can mention?
So actually, there's a few things I can mention. The first thing is something that I call shadow listings on Amazon. So you may or may not know, but Amazon does not always give items a sales rank on Amazon. No one can see it sometimes, but sometimes you'll look at an item, it will have a no sales rank, but it will have 40 different reviews on the product. So that means at some point when you look at their reviews, you'll notice that the item must be selling, because we see all these reviews. They seem to be real reviews, and the item must be selling. Most BOLO groups and people who are using software, or they're just looking at these things, they're going to ignore anything that has no sales rank because it looks like the item's not selling. So these are items that you can generally sell for a longer period of time, and you're not going to find as many people on the listing. Some of these I've been able to stay on the listing, stay profitable for over a year just on one product that has not gone down in value. Whereas if it had the real sales rank available, people would have definitely seen it. They definitely would have jumped in. Number 2, I like to buy items that are closeout, clearance, and you're not going to see them again. And generally, I will buy out the stock if I can get it. So some stores will have a certain amount left. I will try to see how many they have in their cart, and I try to purchase everything if the sale has just occurred. And that is one of the only times that I will go deep on a product, is whenever I know that I'm the last person, going to be the last person who's able to get this item. But you just kind of have to learn that one, feel that one out over time.
Cool, man. Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. Last thing I want to ask you before we move on to phase 2 of our outline right here. I love outlines, guys. Keeps the show moving nicely. And we're going to be talking about automating your business with online arbitrage in phase 2. But the last question in phase 1 is, I kind of wanted you to kind of play out the scenario of, maybe it's Sunday morning and, you had a nice hot cup of Joe, you woke up, you slept in, you're feeling good, you get a cup of Joe, and you sit down at the computer and you say, you know what, I'm going to do some sourcing today. I need some more inventory. I want to buy, 100 new SKUs or whatnot, right? Like, you sit down at the computer, your coffee's delicious. Where do you go? How do you start? Just walk through maybe 5 minutes of, the first 5 minutes of what you're going to be doing and how you kind of go about business.
So before you even start online arbitrage, I want you to sign up for every single news clearance email that you can. I know right now you're probably like, I hate those things. You know, you get those Toys R Us alerts every time something is on sale, or Walmart alerts, but those become your friend because whenever those prices change online, especially if they're temporary sales. So if Walmart has a clearance and it's just for the next 4 hours, those are kind of the golden items to find. And that is where I generally will start looking, are those emails that I first get, because what happens is the longer an item stays priced lower at the source market than it does on Amazon, the more likely other people are to find the item, the more likely they are to jump in, the more likely the product is to be posted on a BOLO group, or, you know, posted to multiple people. But whenever you find it and it's gone in 2 or 3 hours, there's not even enough time for those groups to even catch those items. And those items generally stay profitable longer. And I will generally go deeper on those items because I know it's temporary. I know only a few people are going to see it. And I jump in, I find those items, and then that's how I would start my sourcing. You can also start at a source like Ebates or one of the sites like that, gift card site, where you notice, okay, gift cards at Macy's are always about 20% off. So I might start my source at where can I find the largest discount to begin with, and then move on to the source site and find those items there.
Do you always use the gift cards when you're doing the online arbitrage?
I always use them if the percentage is over 5%. I'm almost always going to use them in that situation. But sometimes it's a 2% 2% discount, and I am not finding a lot of items. Maybe it's a $50 purchase, then I'm probably not going to take the time. But if I can purchase a good amount of items and I can find the gift cards, then I will definitely buy them.
Are you typically getting the items online cheaper than in the retail stores? Or are you paying more because of shipping?
I try to build shipments that meet the free buying criteria of whatever website I'm on. So those are going to vary site to site. So if you look at Walmart, I think it's $35 minimum that you have to hit. Target has a different one, and different websites. Some will have everything as free shipping. Some will have a $99 limit. So I try to meet whatever the minimum threshold is. And I also try to meet the minimum threshold for discounts. So some websites will say, if you spend $100, you get $20 off. I will try to spend $101 or $100.01 just so
Makes
I can
sense.
meet that, and then make my orders and still get the free shipping. So
Nice. Do you have any softwares or any tools or equipment that you use? I'm assuming you use your own software. You probably built it for yourself at first. But do you use any tools or softwares, or what's your approach on that?
So I love context search. It's a simple Chrome extension, and you're able to, for some stores, the only thing you'll have is the title of the item. You won't be able to find the UPC. So you just will be able to highlight the title of an item and right click, and then it will automatically search that title on Amazon. And that just saves you a lot of time. You can also use the invisible hand, and I think that's Amazon's own software, and they will try to match the item that you're looking at in the store with the prices on Amazon. I think that's through Amazon. I'm not 100% sure. I also use DS Amazon Quick View. That is, I think I don't even know who that's by, but it shows you the ASIN and it shows you the sales rank directly on the page. It just saves you so much
Saves a lot of time.
Definitely. And I like the fee calculator. There's a bunch out there. Just to easily be able to see my fees and make sure that my math is correct. I actually love the new fee calculator update that they did a few months ago. Well, maybe it's more than a few months ago now, but you can actually put in your buy cost. It tells you the margin, and that's kind of an update they did a few months ago. I actually like it. It really helps.
Cool. Somebody asked, I don't know what this is. Do you use BrickSeek?
BrickSeek helps you find some items locally in your store that are out of stock online, I believe. So yes, so if I find an item and it's out of stock online, and BrickSeek is just an easy tool that you can use to find the item locally, and it's kind of a cool tool because you can have your virtual assistants find an item online. It's not in stock, so then you just say, hey, which store is this available? You can make a list for them, or they can make a list, and they can put in your zip code and find the items.
Very nice. So we are about at the halfway mark of this show so far with Ted Paulk. So if you guys are just tuning in, Ted is an experienced Amazon seller specializing in online arbitrage, one of the founders of the software OAXRAY, which helps people to find deals online. Let's see, 210 people watching live right now. So I do want to take a moment to thank everybody who's watching live. Thank you for coming. If you could hit the like button, we'd appreciate that. Leave a comment below. If you guys have any questions, let's answer a couple questions in the feed, Ted, if you don't mind, and help some folks out. If you have any questions related to anything we've talked about or mentioned so far, ask away in the comments section. We're going to answer some questions for a couple minutes, and then we're going to move on to automating your business with online arbitrage. And I'm just looking at my notes right now, Ted. We're going to be talking about virtual assistants, back end, how you can get virtual assistants to help find deals, run the back end of your Amazon business, different things like that, safety measures to have in line when it comes to hiring VAs. So we're going to be getting into some kind of intermediate advanced stuff soon. So if you guys are ready to learn some new stuff, be sure to stick around. Also, in about 20 minutes, we're giving away Chris Green's book, Online Arbitrage. Ted's holding it up right now. It's what, 300 pages?
441.
Classified as a weapon. Let me look into the comments, see what's going on. I saw Mal in the comments, Green Room member in the house. What's going on, Mal? I want to know right now if anyone is an active online arbitrage buyer, or if you're doing any online arbitrage sourcing, be sure to leave a comment below. I want to know how many people have experience with this. Also, if you've never done it before, say hello, Ted. That's how I'm going to know if you've never done online arbitrage before. So question, what happens to the seller when there's a return, but Amazon tells the customer to just keep the product and they either issue a refund or they ship another item if the first was defective?
Defective, I believe you are going to have to pay for that item, but sometimes what Amazon will do is they will just refund items because the customer complained and they won't give you a reason. Every single time I see that, I will generally open a case about it and say, why did you refund this item? And maybe 50% of the time, they're just going to credit your account because they just did it for customer service. And some of the times they will say, it is your fault, it was defective, and you're the one who should be paying for this one. But about 50% of the time, you'll get your money back on those.
I'm seeing a lot of hello Teds coming in the comments right now. So there's a lot of folks watching who have never done online arbitrage, or they're brand new. So this is going to be perfect. We're going to be doing a couple more videos over the next month or so, diving into other topics related to online arbitrage, diving into different softwares to use. So it's going to be quite the learning experience. I'm just going through the comments to see if there's any questions coming in. Helen just said, just purchased OAXRAY last week. Love it so far. So really cool, Helen. Glad you're enjoying that software. Okay, so I don't see, there's so many different comments coming in. I'm gonna move on and open up the floor again. I just see a lot of hello Teds coming through. So let's move on to phase number 2 of this outline, automating your business with online arbitrage. Again, if you guys are enjoying this, hit the like button. What are some tips, Ted, for folks who want to free up their time in their Amazon business without killing their bottom line?
The first thing I suggest for anyone, no matter what style of business you're doing, is, and this is something that I try to do every 6 months, is write down what you're actually doing throughout your day every, let's say, 15 minutes. I set an alarm, it goes off every 15 minutes, and figure out what you're actually doing throughout your day. Cut out any time wasters, but the big thing here is figure out what can be automated. So if you're spending every 30 minutes every morning repricing, maybe you need to look into a repricer, which will save you that 30 minutes, and then you can source for 30 more minutes. If you notice in the middle of the day, if you notice your routes are not very clean, you're going around in circles a lot whenever you're doing your RA, then maybe you need a mapping software, which can be free or it can be a few bucks, to actually find you the best route to take throughout your day. And maybe if at the end of the day, you're listing for 3 or 4 hours and you're doing it through the Amazon portal, you might want to look into getting something like Scan Power or Inventory Labs, So the best thing to do is track what you're doing from the beginning of the day to the end of the day and figure out where you can make those little tweaks at the lowest possible cost, which are going to save you the maximum amount of time.
So I actually did this. I've done this regularly over the last 3 years, but I just did it again about 3 weeks ago, Ted, about a month ago. And I did the exact same thing that you said. I wrote down all the different tasks that I was doing with, with reselling, with my YouTube channel, all these different things. And you won't believe all the time that you spend that is like low leverage, kind of like you can outsource it very easily, activities for like less than like $5 to $6 an hour overseas. And you got to ask yourself, why in the world am I doing this? I feel like we're, we get in the habit of just doing everything. And we feel like that we have to be doing every little thing. It has to be perfect. But I mean, think of these huge companies out there, right? Like they've hired millions of, these big companies like McDonald's, or just Walmart's. Look at all the employees. Like, if they could have hundreds of thousands, why can't we have 1 or 2 or 3? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about virtual assistants a little bit. Let's start first with, let's just say they've written down all the things they're doing and they've come up with a list of like 50 things, right? And that's normal. My advice is start with the small things first. I don't know if you'd agree with that, but start with if you're going to outsource anything, start with the smallest, easiest possible things. But so someone figures out, okay, I have a ton of things. I'm wasting a lot of time. I should be doing this, but I'm caught up in the daily grind. I want to hire a virtual assistant. Where is the best place to hire a virtual assistant that doesn't destroy your account or screw everything up? Because we all have these fears, right? That the whole world's going to end when you hire a virtual assistant. So let's start there. Where are the best places to hire a VA?
So I like to hire people through Upwork, but there's kind of 2 different ways to hire virtual assistants. Upwork is kind of a freelance place where you really are not really sure what you're getting, meaning you have to really do some research and make sure the person is who they say they are. I always like to pull up Fiverr.com, and you will see that some people offer a service and all they do is take tests for Upwork and all of these things. So you have to make sure if someone says they speak English fluently, do a Skype with them, make sure that everything is like it sounds. But I like Upwork the best. We have over 30 virtual assistants working for us now.
Wow.
All through Upwork. And there's also firms out there you can do share a VA. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of different companies that are Amazon specific where they hire somebody trained and they're just a little bit more expensive. So it's one of those situations where you can take the time and train somebody all the way from the bottom till they're able to do everything you need them to do. Or you can take someone who's already an advanced person on Amazon who already knows how to navigate the account, and then you're just going to pay a premium for it. So I like Upwork. I like training someone from the ground up.
I like Upwork as well. I've used Fiverr. I've used, what's the other one? Elance, right?
Yes.
I like Upwork. I like, starting from the ground up. And that was a great tip that you mentioned. Definitely jump on Skype with them. You don't necessarily have to have them on video, but that's even better because it lets you know that they're a real person. But get a feel for their communication skills, not only verbally, but also written wise. So I usually will talk to them a little bit on Facebook. I'll talk to them, through voice on Skype. But that's really, really important. What are some of your tips for hiring somebody? Say somebody figures out, okay, I want to get somebody to, list my items on eBay, right? Or I want somebody to manage the back end of my Amazon. Actually, first, why don't you mention a couple things that, some basic things that you see a lot of sellers doing that they could easily outsource on Amazon FBA, and then we'll dive into kind of how to go about training somebody for that. So what are a couple things that you see people that they could easily outsource on Amazon?
Some easy things to outsource on Amazon if you're doing online arbitrage will be the sourcing, and that's pretty obvious. But if you have suppressed listings and you have listings that are suppressed, they're being hidden from the buy box, or maybe you need some price changes and things like that, you can have a virtual assistant do those. Those are kind of more advanced tips. If you're doing RA, one of the things that I like to have my virtual assistant do was to pre-check all of the stores for coupons, for discounts, so that whenever I wake up in the morning, I already know what sale is at what store, and I can just head out and do what I need to do in that way. And they would also plan out my route, which is which are the best station or places to go to. I would have them list what time each place opened and closed so that I could just go onto Google Maps and I could just look up the place and I know where I'm going. I know what time it closes. And if they're able to find a couple local products for me, that might save me a little bit of time there. So that's
awesome.
just an awesome way to use it.
Talk about having the competitive edge over the next guy who's waking up in the morning trying to figure out, okay, where the heck are all the coupons? Let's figure out my route. Let's down like 3 cups of coffee so I can think straight. That's really cool. So how in the world do you get a virtual assistant to do that, right? How do you go from like, you start at Upwork.com. Do you create like a really in-depth job posting? How do you start with that?
I'm generally pretty simple with my job posting, but I do like to include a video. So I will do a screen share and I will show them a simple task, and then I will generally have them do whatever task it is. So if I want them to plan a route of 5 different places, I might narrow my search down to 3 or 4 people, and I say, what is the best route to take? I'm going to see what answers they give me based on the simple training video. And if someone cannot do, 5 or 10 places, then I know they're probably not going to be able to schedule me for a week or find the correct coupons or whatever I need in that task. So I give them like a little mini task and I will pay them for whatever time it takes, if it's, 5 or 10 minutes or whatever it is. And it's a good way to just try people out, see how well they work, see how well the communication is. And you mentioned communication earlier. Often the communication problems are on your end. You have to remember to say things that you mean and not use any slang, anything that's not literal. So if you say cool, they might think temperature and not cool as in everything is okay. So you have to be literal with what you say. And sometimes the communication error is on your side. Sometimes it's on theirs. But that is how I would handle it.
So you mentioned creating videos to help, to test them, but also to train them. I do a lot of videos, and what I actually do is I have a private Facebook group just for virtual assistants, and I'll create multiple ones. And, say for example, I'm training somebody to, maybe I want them to post my YouTube videos and create a graphic for me and do the keywords and titles and different things like that. I'll create a private Facebook group, put in maybe, 5 or 10 videos that I've created showing how to do it. And then I'll be interviewing maybe 5 to 10 different VAs, and I just send them in and just watch them do it. If you don't like it, if they don't do a good job, okay, on to the next one. Find the right one. So like you said, videos is super, like probably one of the best ways to train people, but also to leverage your time, because once you have that video,
yes, I use videos that I still have a couple videos that are still pertinent today. So once you create your video library and you have all of this training, you're going to be like, man, I have 100 different videos on every single topic that can ever be covered, whether it's how to deal with feedback, whether it's how to correct listings that are suppressed. There's just so much information that you're going to have. And it's awesome to have the library and just to be able to reference it whenever you need it or whenever you need to hire someone new.
What are your thoughts in terms of when you're training a virtual assistant to run your Amazon business or part of it, right? A specific task. Do you go more of the mentality of, training really slow at first and spending a lot of time up front and then kind of letting them run wild at the end? Or like, what do you like? I see people doing different things. Like, what's your philosophy when it comes to training?
My training is to start everything simple and continue to add tasks until you notice that things aren't being completed to what you need. So if I have someone sourcing for me, that seems to be the kind of easiest task. Then I'm going to step them up to, okay, maybe I'll give them a little user authorization and they can correct some listings. And if I know, Tis, that the user authorization's not going, they're not able to correct the listings correctly, then I pull back to listing, because not everybody is going to be cut out for every single job that needs to happen on Amazon. So I slowly introduce new tasks, and every time I introduce a new task, I monitor it. And that is one of the things that you have to do. You have to be constantly, especially when you start, whenever someone's just starting out, you have to monitor what they're doing, making sure they are doing the task as you need, and then just add more tasks, and you'll find that some people can do anything that you can do. Sometimes they can do it better, to be honest with you.
I found that you have to almost, although I'm not a parent, I know you're a parent, you have a couple children, you said, I feel like it's almost like parenting in a sense, even though, like I said, I'm not a parent, but like if you, like when you're training and like you let them get away with things, I found like I've hired hundreds of virtual assistants over the last 3 or 4 years. If you let them get away with things and you let them create bad habits and you don't have them clock in, clock out, like for example, I have a Google Drive, and every VA that I have, when they do, they have their own page and they mark down when they clocked in, when they clocked out, because if not, they'll take advantage of the time. If you don't train them properly, they won't tell you what they did. Like, do you find that you have to create these and instill these good habits in your virtual assistants to make sure that you almost nurture them in a sense to become what you want?
You definitely have to put in attention, especially at the beginning. But you know, it's very easy when you're working from home to let things slide a little bit if nobody's kind of watching you at all. And it's very easy to become complacent on your end. You know, you're like, I have this person in place. They've been here for a year or two. But I like to look at the screen caps at least once in a while just to make sure everything is going okay, make sure that they're doing the task, because it's really easy to, you know, once you're doing the same repetitive task over and over, to kind of start slacking. So I think it's imperative that you have some kind of system worked out. Every single week, I ask my virtual assistant what has been completed this week, and then I can go back to texts that we had 6 months ago and see how much was being completed back then and say, okay, we're sliding, we're going downhill, or we're going up. This is great. So you just need to constantly monitor.
So I want to mention something because I see a comment in I'm going to mention something that Tim Ferriss had mentioned in the 4-Hour Work Week. The comment from K-Bomb says, the thing about a VA is I don't have the first damn idea what I'm doing. So it's scary to train someone to do things for me. So what I want to mention is, and Tim Ferriss mentioned this, hiring a virtual assistant isn't the be all end all. Like he mentioned something, I'm going to paraphrase it. If you have a bad process or a bad system in place, hiring a VA is only going to magnify that bad system, and it's going to destroy everything. Whereas if you know what you're doing, you have a good system, you understand what the job is, you lay it out 100%, you've got a system, magnifying that, now that'll help you to scale, grow, achieve your goals. So if you don't know what you're doing in your business, and like having a VA is more intermediate and advanced, right? You've already have to know what you want, because they're not going to know, right? And like Ted was saying, if you're using slang or different words that they don't understand, or you're telling them just like, okay, like the other day I told one of my virtual assistants, go create a graphic for me. And I was like I was very just like, I wasn't specific. It was like all blurry and messed up. The dimensions were all off. And I'm like, okay, that was my fault. So I just want to mention that. But 8:52 is the time right now, Eastern time. We don't have much longer, so I want to answer some questions, and then we're going to do the giveaway. Ted, is that cool with you?
Yes, sir.
So I am looking through the comments right now to see what folks are asking, so bear with me one moment.
No problem.
Someone asked, where do you go to get a virtual assistant? We mentioned Upwork. Okay, here's a question from Miles. Junk removal. What's going on, Miles? Question for Ted. How long did it take for you to master online arbitrage?
Like I said, I started in 2011 or 12, and it definitely takes some time to master online arbitrage. And I don't even know that you're ever really a master, because things are changing so much, and every single day that things are changing. But it does take some time to master it. You just have to make the purchases and learn from everything that you are purchasing. One thing that I like to do is actually set up either special SKUs for items, so I know what store everything came from, and then I can look at the profitability of each individual store. And I think that everybody needs to do this. I actually spoke to someone last week, and they found that they were doing RA, and they found that all of the stores were profitable except for one store, and that one store had an average of a negative 20% ROI at that store. So they were spending 20% of their time, and they were losing 20% of their money at that store. So what they did was they said, let me go to the highest ROI store, take that time away from the other store. And they were actually able to increase their profits by simply using the data and switching over to the store. So you might find that one online retailer, every time you buy there, the price falls faster than selling on this other marketplace. So that's just one of the parts of data that you should be looking at regularly to make sure, because you never know where everyone else is running. There's kind of an ebb and flow on Amazon. Something will be hot. So for instance, private label might be the hot thing right now and everybody jumps into it, and that is probably the worst time to get in there because everybody's doing it. So different stores have a flow just like that. So you might be at a store, nobody's sourcing at it, and that's where all your ROI is coming from. So just try a few things and know your numbers and know where your profit's coming from.
Miners Treasures is asking, what's the difference between online arbitrage on Amazon and wholesale on Amazon?
So wholesale is going to generally take you a little bit more capital. You're building a relationship with the business. There's going to be minimum orders and hurdles that you have to get on. I know that a lot of wholesale companies may not like Amazon sellers. They may not want you to resell their product on Amazon. And often you have minimum order quantities. I'm going to a show, which is ASD. I'll be there in about 2 weeks.
See you there, man.
Oh, awesome. Well, not 2 weeks. I guess it's about 4 weeks, isn't it? So I'll be there, and you'll notice that people generally don't want to deal with sellers on $100 to $500 basis. Generally, they have a minimum order quantity of maybe $1,000, $5,000. So you have to meet those thresholds. Online arbitrage is a little easier to get into. You can buy one item at Walmart, Target, or wherever you want to buy the item and be able to resell it on Amazon. So for me, there's a much lower barrier to entry. And you can also find items that have higher margins. Generally, what I found is wholesale, generally your margins are lower.
Somebody was asking, what's a good price for someone to list my items?
I list everything by what the market tells me. So if everyone's priced at $50, I don't try to sell it at $75 because generally you're not going to get that price. Now, sometimes during Christmas, prices of items will go up and you're going to notice those things. I've never been a person who tries to time the market. I try to look at all the data and see where everything is right now, maybe look at Keepa or one of those graphs and see where things are going. And sometimes, you can make decisions based on that, but the market will tell you.
So a lot of people are asking about the virtual assistants. Again, check out Upwork.com. That's the best place that we recommend. And also they have a work diary or a tracking diary that actually, if you have the option enabled, it takes screenshots periodically of what the virtual assistant is doing. And I've caught some VAs with the same screen on for about 2 hours, and you call them out and they, anyway.
I've caught VAs applying for other jobs 10 minutes after getting hired by me. Yes. And then really quickly, right after they started, they're applying for other jobs for an hour. And I'm like, okay, I can't put up with everything. So the screen capture is definitely something that you're going to be using whenever you start a lot.
I've had some horror stories, right? I've had, when I was full-time I was running a Kindle publishing business full-time, I was hiring out, 10, 15, 20 books, a week, every 2 weeks. It was going crazy. There were writers who were just literally copying and pasting other people's writings, and I used to use this plagiarism software, but you catch them red-handed, and
oh yeah,
I've had VAs going behind my back asking for customers for money. I mean, it's like it happens. And somebody asked, what do you do when that happens? What do you do, right? What do you do, Ted, when you find out that you just hired this guy named Raiken Profit to help make videos for you on OAXRAY's YouTube channel, and then you find out he's just downloading other guys' videos and posting it? What do you do to Steve Raiken in that situation?
So first, you have to have systems in place to stop whatever it is that you're worried about happening. So whenever I am doing online arbitrage, I would have some of my virtual assistants would be able to order things from me. Rather than give them my credit card, I would generally give them a gift card, and I would limit my losses. So just in case they decided today was going to be their last day and they were going to, max out the card, I've only given them a $200 gift card. That's what I'm able to, sell. If you're giving them access to your Amazon account, only give specific user access to exactly what you want them to do. Don't just say you can reprice all my items. They might reprice your items to 0 because you made them angry or something.
Oh,
I'm just making up things that can happen to you. So you want to limit whatever happens. And like you said, you were checking with that software to see if anybody was plagiarizing. And that's one of the things that you have to do, is have some backup system to check on things before the work goes out, or before those things can happen.
I'll tell you though, Ted, the times that I got screwed, it was my fault at the end of the day, because I rushed. Looking back at the people that I hired that screwed me over, I rushed the hiring process, and I didn't do enough due diligence on my part, and I didn't manage them well enough. So at the end of the day, like, I take 100% responsibility. And I find that most VAs, I hire a lot of VAs from the Philippines. Like, they're really, really good people.
Definitely.
They work hard, they're trustworthy, they're loyal. The cultural difference, in that culture, it's a lot has to go with respect and trust, and not cheating and lying. So I love hiring from the Philippines the most. And not only that, they're good people, but the rates are really, really, really cheap too. What about you? Where do you like to hire from most?
I generally hire from India and the Philippines. Either way, generally you get someone who is pretty well educated. I mean, sometimes for if you mention rates, maybe $4 to $5, you'll get someone who has past high school experience. I mean, you might get someone who has a 4-year bachelor's for $5 or $6 an hour. So you can really get someone who's trained, especially if you need something that's kind of skilled, or you need some type of training for it. I mean, it is awesome the level of quality you will get in these different countries.
Cool. So right now we're going to give away the book Online Arbitrage. And again, real quick, you guys, if you're watching, we're giving away Chris Green's book, which is what, $75 now on Amazon?
Definitely, 75.
I remember it used to be 200, man.
Well, you know what? This is the black and white version.
Oh,
I bet you the color version is probably still up there.
So if you guys want to win, we're going to do a contest right now. It's going to be super easy. You got to do a couple things right now, okay? Number one, you've got to like this video. You've got to like the video. We're at 128 likes. If you do win, I'm going to make sure that you like the video. So like the video right now, and then I'm going to ask a question in a second. And I'm going to choose a winner randomly. And if you'd like, you can type in this response multiple times. You can do it as many times as you want over the next couple of minutes. But the winner is going to win Online Arbitrage. And that book is what, 400 pages, you said?
441 pages.
400
of awesome content.
Holy mackerel. And Chris Green, he's like, I remember when he first came out with that book. How long ago was it?
Well, it was updated 2015. I don't remember the original date. A couple of years ago.
Did you have your company OAXRAY before that book was released, or?
I actually gave him some information about OAXRAY, and I think something in there, a little blurb or something might be in there. Because I remember he was asking me around that time, but I don't remember if we were out yet. It was either getting ready to come out or something. Actually, I'll read one of these to see where we are.
All right, cool. So, Ted, I need you to do me a big favor, and I need you to choose the phrase, the word or the phrase that you want everybody in the comment section to say right now. And I'm going to choose, and in 2 minutes, I'm going to choose somebody randomly. So whatever phrase that you want people to type in or word into the comments, that's going to be it. And I'm going to choose one person. So you got to like the video, and you're going to have to write whatever Ted wants you to put down in the comment section. The winner's going to win Online Arbitrage by Chris Green. So what is that word or phrase?
Let's just make it simple. Virtual assistant.
Oh, and don't nobody hire a virtual assistant to do this, because if I find out that there's somebody on Upwork doing this for you. So type in the word virtual assistant. And within the next couple minutes, I'm going to just go through, I'm going to scroll, and I'm going to just stop on a random person. You can type it in multiple times. Just don't break YouTube. And the winner, you said you're going to mail it out to them?
I will mail this out to them.
Super, super cool. So I see James Raiken, virtual assistant. Thrift School, man. What's going on, Thrift School? He lives about an hour away from me. Good to see you. Holy mackerel. Upwork is going to explode after. Wow. You can't see the comments, can you?
No, I cannot.
I'm not kidding right now. This thing is going like 1,000,000 miles per hour. There's got to be like 1,000 virtual assistants in the comments. Holy mackerel. So let's chit chat for another minute or two, and I'm going to go through in a couple minutes, and I'm just going to scroll really, really quick. We're going to be done in a couple minutes. Any other advice you have for anybody who wants to get started with online arbitrage? Again, we're going to be talking more over the next couple weeks and months, talking about different ideas and stuff. But any final tips or words that you have for anyone who wants to get started with online arbitrage, selling on Amazon FBA?
Just like any other kind of selling, there is a learning curve, but you should just get yourself started. If you find an item that is doing awesome for you at the RA level, look it up online. You'll be very surprised that some offbeat website that you've never heard of might carry that brand, and then maybe you contact them and you can find it and get it delivered to you locally or delivered directly to you versus actually running around and going to the store. That's how I got started. I found my best items in the store. Whenever my stores were bought out, I actually went all the way up to Philadelphia. I live in Virginia, so I went all the way up to Pennsylvania, and I was driving around all these different states. And when I came back, I realized that I could have had it shipped directly from me from the store. So if you're running around doing RA, I would take a few minutes every day, look at your hottest selling item, and see if you can find that online. You might be able to get a better deal, or you might be able to price match the item in store and get it for a better price.
Awesome, man. Great tips right there. And I'm smiling as you're talking because this feed is going like people are just typing it and typing it. So I'm going to count down from 10, and whatever my cursor is landing on, whoever it is, you're going to get it. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Steve Boyd, you are the winner. Steve Boyd is the winner. Steve, B-O-Y-D, with the phrase virtual assistant. You're winning Online Arbitrage by Chris Green. That's a 400 and whatever page resource that'll help you with online arbitrage. So what's the best way that Steve can get in contact with you, Ted?
The easiest thing would be to look me up on Facebook, I guess. That is Tedrick Paulk, Tedrick Paulk. I am the only one there with that spelling, so it should be pretty easy to find me.
Okay, cool. So I'll put that information down below as well. Your what do you want me to link up in the description? Your YouTube channel as well, which is, how do people find you on YouTube?
If you type in OAXRAY, I will come up, but also youtube.com/c/OAXRAY.
And I'll link that up. I'll link that all up in the description after this show as well. But yeah, I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. We had well over 200 people watching live this whole entire time. I know you said you're going, you're going on a cruise next week, right?
So I am going on the C-commerce cruise. So I will be meeting with 50 other Amazon sellers, and we will be talking Amazon. I want to say nonstop, but I know there's going to be some fun involved, and we will be not talking about Amazon sometimes, but there's going to be a lot of Amazon business building and helping each other out. If you have any local meetups in your area, I suggest everyone go. It's just an awesome research to learn from other people.
I definitely agree. So if you guys enjoyed this video, like it, comment, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. If you haven't already subscribed to Ted's YouTube channel, type in OAXRAY on YouTube. And you can find him, give him a quick sub for me. He's got some good content over there. Ted, you'll probably be coming on the channel, hopefully maybe in 2 weeks after you get back from your e-commerce cruise. And we'll have a workshop diving a little deeper into online arbitrage, some of the tools that you use, and different odds and ends that can help others. So again, guys, thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. Congratulations, Steve Boyd, on winning Online Arbitrage by Chris Green. Ted, thank you for coming on. Anything else you'd like to say to everybody watching?
That is it. Everybody have a great day or great night and make some money using online arbitrage. It's an awesome way to do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.